Stampin' Up's new hot foil system is finally here, but is it something scrapbookers will actually use? Today, I'm going to show you 10 different ways you can use it on your layouts. We're going to start off with a quick little look at the hot foil system and what you get and what you need to use it. And then we are going to jump into looking at the 10 different ways you can use it for scrapbooking. Now, this plugs in. It comes with the magnetic power cord, and the red light will be flashing. This means that the base is heating up. It comes with this little silicone piece here just to protect your work surface from the heat. So we have that sitting there, and then another silicone mat. This is where you can put your hot dies, as well as a magnetic tool. This is great because you can pick up your hot dies once they're done on here, bring them over here, push the button, and release so that they can cool off. You also have a hot foil shim and a hot foil spacer. These are the only plates you need to run this through your Stampin' Up, Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. You do need this machine. The platform is too wide to work on a lot of other machines like the Big Shot or the old Close to My Heart die cutting machine. Those ones are too narrow to take this base. So you can see the red light flashing here. That means that this is working on heating up. Then it beeps and the white button starts to go flashing. And that is when you go ahead and add your hot foil dies. These are special dies. They're actually more like plates because they don't cut anything. They have, you can kind of tell when you touch them, a little bit of a velvety feel to them, a little bit different than regular metal dies, but they are designed to transfer the hot foil. So then you just place it on here where you want it. You can use the grid on the background to help you line it up if you need to get something straight. And then just push that white button and you'll see the yellow button start to blink. The full heat up to get this ready to go is about 6 minutes. And then once you put your die on, it's about another minute and a half to get it fully heated up to where it's ready to go. While you wait for that to heat, it's a good time to cut your foil, make sure it's ready. You can do that a couple ways. You could use sharp scissors. Another way is to use your paper trimmer. It works pretty good for you to just slide your foils under here. You can look at the measurement of your die to make sure that it is wide enough, and then just cut it. If you try to cut it with scissors that are not sharp enough, it turns into a mess really fast. The foil rolls do come 2 to a pack, and they come in these nice little boxes, which are actually great for storing them. You want to make sure your foil is not getting wrinkled or dusty, because then that can keep it from foiling cleanly. Now you can see we have green light, yellow light, red light. All of them are steady. Nothing is blinking. And that means we are ready to go. So we're going to take our foil pretty side down. Put that over our die. We want to make sure that we cover all parts of our die. There we go. And then we're going to take our cardstock. I am using Pecan Pie two-tone cardstock. The two-tone works really good for this because it is very smooth. Then you're going to put your plates over top, and then I'm going to unplug this and run this through my machine. Now the key part here is when you are running it through, you cannot speed through this part. You need to roll it slowly, and this is the part that's the hardest for me, is to make sure I go slow enough. Sometimes I will also go backwards again. So I'll go through one way, and then if I kind of was getting distracted and going too fast, I will roll it back the other way just to make sure it has really good connection. This plate is hot, but not so hot that you can't touch it right on the sides. Now I'm just going to lift this off, and then we can have a look at our foiling. There is the peel and reveal. Now the fun thing with this is that it has a die that cuts out the whole alphabet at one time. So I'm going to plug my machine back in so that it can start reheating for my next foiling. Take that off, and you can save all these little extras, all the leftovers, because there is a reverse foiling plate coming out in September that will allow you to use all of these pieces really easily. So I've actually been keeping mine in one of these 6x6 Kato paper savers. And once I'm done my foiling session, I'll put everything together and then slide it into this envelope. This set that I'm using is the Luxe alphabet and numbers, and you can see it has the full alphabet. It has special characters and the numbers that cut out all at one time. And there's the foiling plates, and then here's the dies. Now, the cool thing with the dies is you can use those whether you're foiling or not. But if you are foiling, go ahead and do your foiling first, and then you're going to line this up and use your regular die cutting sandwich to run it through. You can see this little gold line that goes right around the outside, and that helps you perfectly place your die so it cuts out exactly. So here is our fully foiled alphabet. Some of them are stuck in, some of them are popped out, but it gives a beautiful result, and you'll have lots of extra letters that you can spell all kinds of things with. This is excellent for titles. You could use it for card sentiments as well, but in this video, we're definitely going to be focusing on ways to use this for scrapbooking. One of the design features that I love about this hot foil system is that this surface is completely flat, which means we can foil on a 12-inch piece of cardstock and it's not going to get bent. It's not going to get like divots in it or anything. We can just foil, move our cardstock along, foil again, and keep going down our piece of paper. So I'm actually going to create a bit of a background with this brick one here. This is from the Echoes of Detail. I love this set. So we have kind of like a damask distressed die here. And I'm saying die, these are hot foil dies. So they put the foil on for you. Then this sort of like cross hatching design, and then the brick. This one also has a coordinating stamp. So if you love to stamp, this is a really great background set for all that like distressed kind of detail. So the big thing to remember is I'm looking at this piece of cardstock. This is going to go on my layout like this. This is the left, this is the right. And I want to take this and kind of have it in this corner. Well, when you're putting things down on your machine, it's going to be the reverse. So I actually find it helpful to line this up where I'm going to want it on my project. Let's see if my bricks are somewhat straight. Yeah, they're somewhat straight. So line it up like I want it on my project, and then put it down on my machine like that. So then I know if I put this right here, I'm going to get exactly what I wanted. So we can start heating that up. Then I'm going to take a piece of foil, and you want your foil to be kind of flush with your cardstock. I've even used washi tape to hold it in place so I get it exactly where I want it. It's okay if it's not flush if the die is not outside of this area, but you saw how I plan to line this up, right? There's going to be die outside the area. So if I put this so that my foil is kind of hanging out like that, and then I go ahead and I heat it up and I put my plates on top, well, this plate is going to pick up all that design because there's die plus foil, and it will transfer onto this plate. Is that the end of the world? No, but I am trying to avoid it as much as possible. If it happens here and there, not a huge deal, but that's why I'm going to make my foil flush with the edge of my paper. All right, it has heated up now, so I'm taking my foil with my paper so that I have it lined up where I want it, and I am just going to lay my paper here, and actually I'm going to scooch this way a little bit so it's not hitting my stuff that's sitting there. And then I'll put this on top, unplug, and then just run it through my machine like before. I did run it forward and back. That is my preference. I find I get better images that way. And one of my favorite things about the hot foiling system is the perfection of the images. Look at that. That is so pretty. All right, I'm going to continue this down. I want to put some kind of in the middle and then another one over on this end. Now, if you happen to get any overfoiling, I have the tiniest little line. You probably can't even see it. Oh, right there. It's a tiny little line. If you take one of these sand erasers, you can go ahead and just clean that up. If you find you are getting like tons of overfoiling, it might be that you're not doing things in the correct order. If you leave your foil on here a long time, it's going to overfoil. So if when we push this white button, you were to put your die and your foil on at the same time, and then it sits there while the die heats up, you're going to get tons of foil overfoiling and transfer of that foil to places where you don't want it. And here is our finished piece. So there is our whole panel. I am not going to leave this white. We are going to do some ink blending because the foil acts as a perfect resist to ink. So we'll do that when we go to start building our layout. So we already had a look at how we could use the foils to make titles with that alphabet set, but don't forget about your other die cuts. So this is the party alphabet. It's a nice big chunky alphabet. And look at the foil I have added on here. This is the Echoes of Detail set again, that one that has a little bit more of the damask pattern. Now the piece I did, I only had enough for 3 letters. So I'm actually just reheating it now so that I can do the E for the word love. But isn't that gorgeous? You don't even have to do the whole letter. And for me, I find it easier to do the cardstock first and then die cut it. So I'm actually just doing one letter. I just need to do the E. So I think, oh man, I'm really risking it. I should probably cut a slightly bigger piece of foil. Sometimes if you try to scrimp on the foil too much, you regret it later. Now, I don't want this to move. So I think what I'm going to do is just wrap a little piece of washi tape around here like a hinge, and that will help keep it in place for me. So I'm just going to flip this over. It doesn't really matter where I put it on here, and then run it through. Here is our piece. Oh, doesn't that look so beautiful? This is on Night of Navy cardstock. And it just gives such a pretty finish. Now I noticed where I put the washi tape, it did maybe change the foiling just a little bit. You see how it looks a little bit thicker there? So that's something to keep in mind if that bothers you. I'm not using this whole piece, so it really doesn't matter to me. So here is what that finished title looks like. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, if you're wondering about using foil on your scrapbook pages, there are colors that are archival safe, and they are marked with a little asterisk. So right now we have silver, gold, and pink. There are more colors coming. Some are okay to use on your scrapbook pages. They are acid-free, and some are not. So those are indicated with a little asterisk. We have been using just cardstock so far, but you can use your pattern paper as well as vellum, acetate, anything that is smooth enough, anything that has a lot of texture, like textured cardstock. You won't get as clean of an imprint. But I am using my leaf here. This is from the Botanical Glow. I absolutely love this set. And if you don't mind doing a little fussy cutting, this one also looks absolutely beautiful when you foil it and then cut it out and use it on your pages. But I'm going to foil it onto this pattern piece of paper. My machine is hot and ready to go. And I would recommend whenever you're cutting your papers, you're always better off to go a little bit bigger on your paper and then cut it down to size. Because that way, if you didn't get it perfectly centered or something, because you're working kind of blind, you can trim your paper down later to the size that you want it to be. And here is our reveal. That is so beautiful. And a nice open design like this, you could always come in and add some detail with markers or pencils, shade in those leaves if you want to. But that is just a really pretty detail. In addition to the ways that we've already looked at so far, you can also make custom little tags and tabs and little embellishments for your pages. You can see this one I've foiled completely. This one I've only partially foiled. And actually the easiest way to do this is take a piece of cardstock in the color that you want. This is pecan pie. And leave lots of extra cardstock. So I had more cardstock on this side that I've already used up to make these. But leave yourself lots of empty cardstock, and then you can place your die wherever you want it. Do you want half your tag foiled? Do you want the whole thing foiled? This tab is half foiled, so then I can stamp a little word there if I want to. It's a great way to make some customized embellishments. This is also how I die cut my letters. So you would foil your piece first and then line your letters up and die cut them. Another great way is to create borders. So this one I've made a little bit larger than I wanted, and I had to run this through 3 separate times. You might see a little more intense foiling right here and right here. That is just where they overlapped a little bit. I decided I would rather have them overlap a tiny bit than have gaps in between them when it comes to doing a border. Now, when I want to use this, I may rip this and give it like a distressed look, because this is white core, so I'll get that nice white core to it, or I can just trim down the edges if I want, if I don't want this distressed kind of looking edge. If I want it to go perfectly right to the edge, I would just trim it down. As well as borders, you can also create mats, you can create journaling spots. This is a card that I made. You can see it on my Instagram and my Facebook. I have several cards that I've done with foiling, as well as a video. The video that I posted before this one that has some foiled Christmas cards. But what I wanted to show you is this piece that's inside. That would make an excellent journaling spot. And this I just cut out of there with the perennial postage die. And you would have tons of room to put your journaling, or if you're doing a card, to put your message. Now I have this piece left over, and I don't think I have a perfect die right here. I might have a tag die that would fit here. I could die cut a tag out of this and have that nice foil accent. I can also just use my paper trimmer, trim it off, and create a rectangle, and I have another journaling spot that has that beautiful gold detail. Why waste it? Another one of the new hot foil sets, the Butterfly Flight. This one has dies. All the dark gray are cutting dies. This is the foiling die, and it makes these gorgeous butterflies. Now it also has stencils or masks that go along with this, so you can add color to them that way by doing the masking over top. They actually foil all in one piece, and then the die cuts them out all at once. So you don't have to run it through a bunch of times with different dies. It's one die. This is silver on top of gray, which I think is a beautiful combination. This is gold on top of white. And again, you could ink blend over this. You could use the coordinating masks, but it makes great embellishments, and these are a good size to add to your pages. Plus, I love that there's various sizes, so you can cluster them and kind of make them trail down your page. Now, while we're talking embellishments, I already mentioned this one, which I hand cut out. And it's not too tricky to do. It just takes a little bit of time. This is from that leaf, and I like to cut it in half and use half on one side and half on the other side, just because the leaf altogether is quite large. Now another idea is to add some bling to your florals. So this is the Pretty Floral set. And what I did was I took some Misty Moonlight cardstock and some silver foil with one of those Echoes of Detail dies. This is the one that I have not used yet on this project, but you can see it has this kind of like sketchy cross hatching. And then I just cut the dies out of there. These little dies go along with it as well. And so I just left them plain so that the silver could really pop on there. And I think this is a great way to add some interest to your florals. Now, we are scrapbookers, we love photos, and what's better than some hot foil right onto your photo? I love this set, the classic greetings for card making, but a couple of these, like the happy birthday and the celebrate, I think work really good for scrapbooking as well, and they foil so beautifully. This is Epson glossy photo paper. So I have not tried it with all different kinds of photo paper. You might want to do that, but I know for sure it works on the Epson glossy. And isn't that just so pretty? Now, if you don't want to foil on top of your photos, another idea is to make a photo mat that is larger than your photo, like substantially larger. So you can mat your photos and have a little bit of that gold shine or whatever color foil you want to use kind of peeking out from behind. This is Pool Party cardstock. And of course, the darker the color you use, the more contrast you're going to have with the foil, and the more it's really going to stand out and be the focal point. But I thought this was a great balance. These leaves are a great balance to the gold that we have going down on the photo. Okay, now that you know how to hot foil, you have all these ideas buzzing around your head of how you could use hot foil on your scrapbook pages. Let's go ahead and build a layout. So I have my two foiled layers that I made for my layout. I have one that's vertical and one that's horizontal because that's what works for the pages that I'm creating. And then I have crumb cake ink and pecan pie. And I'm going to start off with the crumb cake and then build up the color from there. You could use an ink blending tool. I'm going to go ahead and use a blending brush. And I'm just going to start softly, and then we will build as we go. Now, if only ink blending was this fast in real life, that would be amazing. It took me much longer to do both of these pieces, so I'm going to speed up through it so you can see what I'm doing, but you don't have to spend a long time watching the process. So I went over everything with crumb cake first. I'm doing two of these different panels, and then I'm also doing the edge of my journaling piece just because the stark white seemed a bit harsh when everything else was inked. And then I'm bringing in the pecan pie and really deepening up those edges. I am keeping it kind of around the outer section, leaving the center still fairly light. Once I get this darker ink on, it's still looking kind of plain, so I brought in the Echoes of Beauty. I'm stamping in crumb cake, stamping off, and then using second and third generation ink on my project, just kind of going here and there around the lighter areas, adding in some detail. Then I decided I wanted to add some splatter with pecan pie, so pecan pie, ink, and water, and a fan brush, and then I'm just flicking that all over to add a little bit more texture. This is what we have so far. I could have probably got a little bit darker with the damask stamping, but I didn't want to risk doing it really dark and then hating how it looked. So we're going for subtle layers here. I decided to bring in the splatter stamp that is also in that Echoes of Detail stamp set. And I was doing second generation, like stamping off, but then I messed up and I got a full strength one on there. So I had to do that in a couple spots just to make it balance out. Once you're done with the inks, make sure to go in with a dry paper towel and just remove any of the ink that's still sitting on top of the foil. I'm going to be scrapbooking these photos from my husband's trip to Europe this summer. This page is for him, so he picked out the photos he wanted, and I'm also going to be leaving the journaling for him to fill out as well. My 12 by 12 base pages are from the Everyday Essentials Mix and Match DSP. It already had some splatter on it and it's a crumb cake color, so I thought it would work perfectly. I added some pecan pie ink around the edges just to warm it up and make it match the rest of the papers. The other pattern papers are from the Nature Walk collection. My journaling circle is from the Spotlight on Nature, and I did ink with the two different colors of ink as well, just lightly around the edge. This layout comes from the CDT Sketchbook Volume 1, and this is the layout that I am using. So you can see I'm following pretty close to the sketch. I didn't change up too much. I also made an embellishment with this Bordered in Beauty set. I love the little file tab detail. And I used this other retired set for the sentiment. I just stamped memories on there. I've inked the edges of all my papers with pecan pie ink, except for my photo mats, which are on Night of Navy. I didn't feel like they needed any inking on the edges. Instead of having flowers like the sketch, I'm going to bring in Nature's Symphony and use my favorite leaf die. I just love this one. I've cut it out of Mossy Meadow, and then I did some foiled leaves on old olive, so I'm going to do a combination. My thought behind this is that to do all of them as foiled leaves is just a lot. I don't want it competing with the foiling I have going on in the background and on my embellishments and my title. I'm going to have a lot of foil happening, and doing just some solid leaves was a really good way to balance all of that. Sometimes arranging leaves is just as hard as arranging flowers. So I'm just kind of going back and forth here, trying to figure out how I want these layered together so you can still see everything, but it's not too cluttered. And now I'm going to bring in my title for the left-hand page. And this is going to say, Love This Place. So, of course, we did the big letters out of the Night of Navy with the foiling on them. And then I did do an offset in the light side of Pecan Pie. I felt like it all just blended together, and I needed that little gap between each letter to give it some breathing room and be able to see it clearly. And then I'm doing this place out of that Luxe alphabet that we foiled and die cut. Now I'm going to fill in kind of the bottom part of this page with leaves. So you can see I have a full one of those foiled green, light green leaves. And then I am just adding in the die cut mossy meadow leaves, just alternating them back and forth. I love how both of these sets of leaves wrap around the photos really nicely. They're easy to tuck in. I'm feeling like I want to add just a little bit more embellishment, not a ton, but I die cut some gears from the Gears and Textures set, and I used gold foil sheets as well as earthen toned metallic. I thought the brown would be nice to kind of break up just pure gold. I didn't sand them or distress them in any way, but you definitely could if you wanted to grunge them up a bit, even like adding on some black paint or something to them. But I decided just to leave them plain and tuck them in here and there. I don't want to have a whole bunch, but just kind of scatter them around to fill out my clusters. I went ahead and glued everything down off camera. I also added just a few little faux brass pentagon embellishments around where the gears are. Just felt like I wanted a little extra something to finish out those clusters. So let's have a close-up look here. I love the shine of this title. It's so beautiful. And then, of course, tons of shine down here at the bottom from our gears, from our foiling. I feel like it's so textural and it's really interesting to look at. I think this foil could work beautifully on so many different types of layouts, especially things like wedding and baby celebration. Remember, there's different colors of foil, so changing up the color of the foil can really make a big difference as well. I am partial to gold. I've used quite a bit of the gold foil so far, and that is my go-to usually. I hope you found this video helpful and gave you some more ideas for using foiling on your pages. If you want another foiling video, check out this one here for a little Christmas inspiration, and I'll see you again soon with another video.